I want to acknowledge the email letter that I received from John Fricke, dated May 7th, 2005, and I know, Charlie, you and Mike and staff are responding to that. But somewhat as a separate issue, and I think it needs to be a separate issue, because this is a broader question about this particular section of our zoning code. And I raised this in commissioner comments a couple months ago, section 9-4.52.3, interpretation of the map. And I did read through John's letter. I think it's an excellent letter, and it clarified a lot of things for me. But I don't think it's appropriate, and it does raise questions on how to interpret this particular section of the zoning code. And my thought is it's appropriate for the commission to resolve interpretation of that section of the code in advance of hearing any other application. I think it's a mistake to tie questions about this interpretation of the height map to a specific application and encumber that discussion. I think it's appropriate. I think it would be appropriate for us to hear the issue in advance of a specific project, so we get clarification.
Yeah.
And what I'd like to do, Carol, before you respond, is suggest that we have a study session from staff at the next meeting that gives us an explanation of this section of the zoning code, and how staff interprets it, how staff has applied it in the past, and educated about us independent of an application that we are then going to hear. Because my gut feeling is this is going to come up when we have the Oak Walk application in particular, and I'd like to be educated about this issue separate from that application and in advance of that application.
And because it has citywide implications.
Yes.
Well, I think that's fine, and I think in terms of, we can certainly provide you with something in writing that discusses that, that this isn't an inconsistent interpretation, and we as a city need to be careful about being consistent with our applications. But I do think, it's very difficult to separate this interpretation from an application, and I have some concerns about setting it up with a study session. Yes, separately. So in terms of, I think, that the issue is going to come up in the context of this application when it comes before the city council. when it comes before the planning commission. So it seems to me that that's an appropriate time to discuss it. Or if the other way to address it is through a zoning ordinance amendment.
Well, I believe there are problems with this particular section of the zoning code, and it may be appropriate after hearing and getting more educated about how we are to interpret this, or what staff's position is there. But I feel like it's the Oak Walk application in particular is going to be complicated enough without this separate issue.
Right.
And I think it's a mistake to now know that it is a concern and its broad application with the city, and not have some instruction in advance of hearing that application.
Well,
and if there is some redirection in how to interpret this, I think it's appropriate and necessary to have some redirection to that particular applicant now, rather than when he's presented, his application at a hearing for us, and we're saying, or a majority may say, well, we don't see it that way.
I think in terms of, I'll discuss it with the city attorney. I think he's going to agree with me that it should be discussed in the context of the application. But I hesitate to, I hesitate to engage in this discussion because we did have an ostensible appeal on a particular project that raises this particular issue, and none of the parties are present. So we shouldn't continue on
discussing. Right. Well, my suggestion is that we have a study session. This isn't a new issue to me. I raised this point 2 or 3 meetings ago and a concern over how to interpret it.
I would just like to reiterate Carol's, I don't know if it was a suggestion, but Carol's thought that one approach would be to amend the ordinance. Because I have made an interpretation of this section of the code. I think it's the correct interpretation, but I also think that that section of the code is very poorly written, very difficult to interpret, very difficult to implement, and in my opinion should be amended.
So
Isn't that sort of a council action, though?
Oh, absolutely, but it has to come from the commission or through the commission before it goes to council.
Recommendation to them
So,
to do
I
that.
think
I
in
don't-
terms
I-
of, I really don't think we should have a special study session on this code interpretation.
Can we have a session on rewording it?
I think in terms of what we can do is provide you with frankly, I think I need to talk to the city attorney about in terms of
the correct procedure. I think
right. In terms of, it's just when's the application coming up? That's what I'm.
The environmental review is still pending.
Okay.
We don't know what the outcome of that will be. We don't have a hearing scheduled yet.
Right. I think in terms of, it's not imminent, so we can talk about it at the next meeting in terms of what the appropriate course of action. In terms of putting something in writing, why it's interpreted the way it has in the other projects that's been consistent, that's certainly something that we can draft and provide to the commission. So.
maybe, as you did with the variance, do a memo and
Right.
then maybe have it,
Right.
Charlie, under the director's report, and summarize that to us short of a study session, and then if
Yeah.
we want, at that point, you can report back
Certainly.
to us about Mike's position.
Right, certainly we can do that. It's just in terms of, we're going to, what I don't want to happen is that we end up into a discussion of the project.
Of a particular project.
Right.
No, I understand that. I don't
Okay.
think any of us
Okay.
intend to do that.
Correct. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, we could talk about other projects in the past where
Right.
this has applied.
Right.
Yeah. Okay,
That's what I was hoping to get a summary on.
sure.
Any other commissioner comments? So just to recap, we're going to have a staff memo summarizing interpretation and its
Explaining.
application to past projects.
Right.
And that'll be itemized under the director's report rather than as a study session? Is that how you'd prefer to see it handled, Carol?
Right.
Or why
just
don't we
give it
leave
to
that
you
in
as
your
a-
lap to
Right, we can just
decide
give it
based
to you
on
as a-
Why
Mike's
don't you
as a
just
input?
give it to
memo.
us,
Right,
okay,
exactly.
without being
Yeah.
talked about? Could I, can you forward me a copy of his letter? You know, some of
You-
us don't have a clue of what you're talking
Okay.
about. Fricke's letter, or his email, or whatever.
Yeah.
I thought it was sent to all commissioners,
Not
but
to
maybe
me.
he, oh, really?
I didn't get it. Did you?
I thought it did. I thought it was in
Yeah, I thought everybody was, I looked at the list and everybody was listed. Maybe there was an incorrect addresses.
You know,
So
he
is there
did
a way
have,
that-
he did have some incorrect email addresses
Okay.
on there. I know some city staff it was directed to didn't get it.
Yeah. I don't think that I got it directly
Did you get it?
from John, but I got it through Triangle Neighbors Group in Pana.
So is it appropriate, Carol, to distribute it to?
I think it was addressed to all the planning
Commissioners.
commission. It's a
It's
public,
written.
it's a public record,
Okay.
absolutely.
So
have the right
perhaps
to-
staff could make sure that,
I'll forward it to all of
Okay.
you.
Would you please?
great. And any other commissioner comments? With that, we'll adjourn the meeting.